Welcome back. We are recording out in the wild today, just because it's not safe to do it at home. But besides that, we have a returning guest. It's George O'Connor, who we talked to about almost a year ago about the same book that we're going to be talking about today, but a different issue. So let me bring in George O'Connor, and we'll find out more about what's been going with him and Vampires on Mars. Let's see. There we go. How's it going?
It is going well, man. Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it.
Well, first off, I want to say, I know we were supposed to meet, I think, last week, and I got screwed up with schedules and stuff like that. So I'm glad we can make it work.
Absolutely. Life's life, man. What are you going to do? We're all juggling a dozen different things. We're all doing the best we can, Chad.
Yep. So, like I said, it was about a year ago that we talked about when you had, I think, issue 2 of Vampires on Mars out. So, before we get into the new issue, what have you been up to? How are things been going?
Things are going well. First and foremost, like, the family's good, right? Like, and if that foundation is solid, then you can kind of do anything, like make comic books about vampires going into space and all that stuff. Yeah, man, things are good. We are making stuff because I don't know what else to do. I don't know what your school system is on, but our school system was February break last week. And so my son's 15, so I take the week off so we can just hang out, or I can just be here for him. And like, not doing anything is the weirdest feeling in the world.
Yeah, my son was also off last week and off again yesterday. So, it was scrambled to, I had to take off. I mean, not that you have to twist my arms for me to take off work, but no, it's always fun times, spending the day with him, and especially since now he's into reading books like Dogman and stuff like that. So it's nice to see him kind of get into find a way into the what we both love.
That's all that matters, is however they find their way in. There's no wrong way, whether it's Dogman or my wife. I mean, she's got stories about reading Stephen King way too early, but whatever gets you reading, whatever gets the imagination going, that's all that matters.
So, for those who may have not seen our previous interviews, I know we first talked about Charlie's Spot. I think that was back during the pandemic.
Yes. Yep.
But so what have you been up to with the comic in the past year? Other than putting out another issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's so, like, Vampires on Mars is been the big thing. This time around, I wanted to try launching a series through Kickstarter. I'd done single issues, I'd done graphic novels. Charlie's Spot was the collection of the 4 issues. But this was something new I wanted to try. And so we are, we're 3/4 of the way through all of that, along with bringing it to conventions and stuff like that. And the thing I didn't expect was the fun feedback loop that's going on. I've got people at conventions who will pick up an issue and it's like, hey, here's the postcard. We're going to launch the next issue soon. And they start supporting and following that way. At one of the bigger shows that we do, a guy walked up to the table with his Kickstarter versions of Vampires on Mars looking to get my autograph, which was very cool. I mean, this was a show that had Tom King and Jason Aaron and Stephanie Phillips were there, and like, oh, my books were in the same pile as Tom King and Jason Aaron and Stephanie Phillips. Like, that's cool. That's a nice little validation that our artistic egos need every now and then. And looking way in the future, I had pitched an idea to Fernando Pinto, who's also the artist and co-creator on Vampires on Mars. I said, I'm kicking around this idea. I think it'd work for you too. And before I knew it, he was sending me sketches and page layouts. I was like, okay, I guess you're in. So we are in the very early stages of that one. It's going to be called Universal Champion. And it's about something I love and something I hate. I love professional wrestling. I hate imposter syndrome. So we're telling a story about a world wrestling champion who has incredible imposter syndrome. No accolade will make that pit in his stomach go away. And he gets accidentally abducted and entered into like a galaxy-spanning fighting competition, which he thinks will be the final answer. Like he can finally achieve something that will quiet his mind down. And if you know anything about imposter syndrome, you know that does not work that way. So yeah,
I know plenty about imposter syndrome.
Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst. God. I talk about this a lot, not because I figured it out, it's because I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm just assuming I'm not the only one with the stupid voice in our head, you know, derailing everything we're trying to accomplish. But yeah, so Fernando just sent me the final layouts for the first issue about a week ago. It was a very good day to be checking email that day. And I've got another project that is it was a Hail Mary. And we're slowly working on that. And yeah, so like, you know, we are, you know, the ghost of Christmas, you know, present and future going on. Just making stuff because, like I said, what else are we here to do if not make stuff and share it?
Very true. So, for somebody that hasn't seen our previous interview, and I'll probably include the link up here along somewhere in this one. But tell us about your journey as a comic book reader and a creator.
Yeah, I was an X-Men kid of the 80s, so that classic Claremont run is what got me invested into comics. I was lucky to have a brother who's 9 years older than me, so he could drive us all to the comic book store. And then he went off to college, and the parents weren't that interested in bringing us to the comic book store every Saturday. But a nerd's a nerd. So it's always been in me. My creative journey has been music and theater and writing a ton of short films, and which led to doing a web series called 664, The Neighbor of the Beast. We did two seasons of that, about 42 episodes altogether in about a 2.5 year span. So we ended up like shooting 2 movies in 2.5 years when it runs all together. And by the end of it, I was burnt out. And so I stepped away from filmmaking, you know, to let the batteries recharge. And then like years went by. I was like, oh, this thing isn't recharging. Around that time, I started getting back into comics, went to my first San Diego Comic-Con, and then I went to my first New York Comic-Con in 2009. And I remember specifically an Oni's How Not to Break Into Comics panel. And as they were talking about it, it was great. I think a how not to panel is much more useful than a how-to panel. You know, I can learn by watching somebody else touch the stove. So I'm a fan of that. But as this panel was going on, the synapses started connecting in my head of like, oh, comics. That could be a way to tell stories and tell bigger stories. Because the rule of thumb with short film is don't write it if you can't shoot it. So if you don't have access to a pirate ship, don't write an epic pirate movie because there's nothing you can do with it. You know, so that web series, 80% of it was shot at my house. So comics, if you find the right collaborators and the right partners, just opens up the opportunities and the stories that you can tell. And then plus, I'm just a collaborative guy by nature. I love bringing other artists together and kicking that ball around and seeing how everybody elevates the seed of an idea. That really gets me excited. And so comics, I mean, like, the only way you can make a good comic is, I believe, is, you bring in talented people, you paint a target, and then you get out of the way, and let them do their thing. And this year, this con circuit will be my 15th year of doing comics and doing cons. And I have fallen in love with the medium deeper the more I do this. And just truly appreciating the artistry along every step, the penciler, inker, colorist, letterer, editor, just appreciating what they do. It's pure magic, and it's wonderful. And I'm like I was alluding to, the day that your collaborator sends you new pages, it's the best freaking day. Like, the inbox does not get better than, a subject line that says new pages. So yeah,
I can imagine.
And Vampires on Mars is the 7th series that I've co-created.
So, leading off of that, what was the inspiration for Vampires on Mars, and kind of what has been the story up to the point that you find yourself, that you're funding with the Kickstarter right now?
So it began, as all good stories, a long road trip. So my friends and I were heading back from Baltimore Comic-Con one year up to Boston, where I live. And what are you going to do? You're just going to talk and tell stories. And I said something along the lines of, I would consider becoming a vampire if that meant I was around when we land on Mars and make all of these great astronomy discoveries. And that felt like an idea. And in very short order, we kicked around what was essentially like the tent poles of the story. Like, we had the beginning, the middle, and the end in these little moments. And it just seemed fun. And then it kind of just gestated for some years. And as I was thinking about it, it's like, okay, that's the story. Vampires into Mars. That's the B movie plot. That makes somebody, that gets you in the door, that makes somebody like, I'll flip through this. But what's the real story? And that's when I got even more excited about the idea. So, Vampires on Mars, on the surface, it's a 300-year-old vampire who's always dreamed of leaving Earth and going to Mars. And finally, technology has caught up to her dreams. And so now she's hell-bent to make her dreams come true. And so turning a group of astronauts into vampires, because that's the only way that you could actually survive the trip to Mars. The story behind it is, how much of your humanity do you have to sacrifice to succeed? And that universal story, I mean, hopefully on a smaller level, we all have to kind of make those decisions, right? Like, if you've got a day job, how much are you going to sacrifice for that day job? How much of your free time, your beliefs, your whatever, your feelings, your thoughts, what are you going to do for that? And we, like any good story, you just kind of take that vibe and turn it up to 11. And where that takes us for this third issue this is now the find out part of the story. They are on the doorstep of getting to Mars, and the reality of what they have sacrificed is starting to hit some of the people. And whenever you sacrifice your morals or your beliefs, or when you go up against your gut, sometimes you're going to talk yourself into that it's the right move. And there's some people on this mission who 100% believe that. There are some other people who are now in the wait, now the reality's setting in, and they're having a lot of doubt, and the friction that causes between the team. And in this, the chaos gets ramped up. Like, we are bringing you to the top of the roller coaster on this one, and I really believe it shows off what Fernando does well. Ellie Wright is our colorist. Justin Birch is the letterer. And the three of them riding this roller coaster of an issue, from the big bloody fights to the quieter, more introspective, emotional scenes. They just navigate it beautifully and wonderfully. I'm incredibly proud of this issue. And then, it's the final kickoff to the last issue. So there's a lot of payoff and a lot of setup on this one that I'm really excited for people.
So, being the penultimate issue for the series, has there been any characters that you've grown attached to, and are going to would like to do more with, or somehow explore more?
Oh yeah, our new character, her name is Hanna. She's our 300-year-old vampire. It's a lot of fun to write somebody who is so focused and who is so driven, and who is willing to step on anyone to get what she wants because it's what she wants. There's definitely some fantasy booking on that. I do not have the guts or the narcissistic disorder to just waylay anybody who gets in my way. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to just let her be a wrecking ball, and then watching the other characters bounce off her. Like, she is the immovable object. So how do you react to the immovable object? Mm-hmm. And the dialogue and characters that get to come out of that.
So,
and we could tell a lot of stories with her.
So I get the impression that you're a fan of vampires. What kind of vampire lore do you like or influences you? Is there any specific authors? I mean, I'm currently reached that point where I'm going back and rereading listening to the audiobooks of the Image View and the Vampire series. So,
I mean, I don't know if you got excited about this. I'm a Buffy fan, and I remember watching that series. I remember the gathering that our friends had together for that season finale, and I'm really excited to see what this group of creators does with this potential reboot, reimagining. I think that the vampires and the monster of the week is a great. It's what sci-fi does great, is that you get to talk about real things, but you candy coat it, with the monsters, with the Draculas, with the vampires, that type of thing. Absolutely laying into that vibe and trope with Vampires on Mars, right? Like that's how you're able to tell a good story versus preaching to somebody. And I think we've all read or watched things that we might agree with, but they're preaching to us, and that's not very entertaining.
Yeah.
True. So, how do you get to say the thing? How do you get to make the statement, but make it entertaining? That's the fun part. I think that's what great vampire stories do. And at the end of it, or even in the middle of it, you think you're coming in for this B movie idea that sounds like, oh, this will be fun to read, and then you're in the middle of it, like, oh, they're going for something. They're trying for something. And that was the bar we were going for. See if we could follow in the footsteps of the greats that came before.
So let's talk about the campaign itself. What are you offering? Backers, who want to help support your project.
The thing I am incredibly excited about are the guest cover artists that we had coming on here. And it's a great, it shows the power of social media, the good part of social media. So
That one little sliver.
yeah, exactly. The one the part that makes you come back and wade through everything else. And that's kind of the story of this issue and the variants for this one. Federica Mancine is one of our variant covers. Her art came through my Twitter timeline, and it looked wonderful. It looked great, and I've been following her for a while. And as I reached out to see if she'd be interested in doing a variant cover for this, I'm flipping through my own Marvel books, and I see that she's named one of their Stormbreaker artists, which is amazing. And so she, along with colorist Marta Gasparoni, put together a fantastic cover for it. And then at the same time, I'm reading Moon Knight and loving it. And one of the artists there, Federico Sabatini, I loved his art style. And luckily, we had a mutual friend, and the friend kind of greased the wheels. And so I sent a blind email basically to Federico and said, "I'm a fan. Like, yeah, I am buying your stuff because I'm such a fan of it. Would you be interested?" And he said yes. So we've got, and so I've got two Marvel artists doing variant covers for us, and they're both great. Federica's leans into the sci-fi of it all, and Federico found this kind of like bloody, sexy vibe going on. So both of them offer wonderful options. And then because in another part of my life, I am a heavy metal guitar player. I love doing metal covers for these books. And they've come out fantastic for the last two campaigns. And so all of these covers are also available as metal variants. And I love that stuff because it's putting a spotlight on the artists. And that's what I react to. That's what gets me excited. So I love putting the spotlight on those people and maybe introducing my audience to maybe artists that they don't know, but they can become fans of as well.
And I know I'm not certain how much time you have left. And this one, I think it's a couple weeks, maybe.
Yep. As of today, we've got 10 days left, and we're around 77%. So there's some work to do, but we got 10 days to go.
So having said that, how has this compared to your other experiences on Kickstarter? I know you said that you had people coming back. You had people,
Yeah, this has been an interesting one. So it started off great. The best first day back, dollars and backers numbers, that first 24 hours. Things have gotten quiet since then. And in my creators circle, I'm not alone in that. The middle part of campaigns, they're always going to be quieter. It's basically you make, there's a big spike at the beginning, there's a big spike at the end, and the middle can get quiet. So we're working through the quiet part right now, which is why I'm so appreciative of we taking the time and chatting right now. Because anybody, if this sounds interesting to you, I mean, not only do I believe in this book, and I think you're going to be thoroughly entertained, you're going to help us out a huge amount by helping us, get over this hump and start building towards the end of the campaign. So you're going to make a big difference right now. And then the other thing I love to do, I was kind of talking about introducing, people to different artists. I love setting up backer milestones where everybody gets a free PDF of a book. Again, there are so many great creators and books and series out there that just can be missed or can go under the radar, or just even if we love this medium as much as we do, we can't read everything, we don't see everything. So I like using these backer milestones to introduce people to creators that I love, books that I've supported, or books that are having their own campaigns right now. And so basically every 25 backers we release a new book. So we've 5 books have already been unlocked. We're getting close to unlocking our 150th backer book. And so not only do you get the book, but then, each book is another $5 worth of content that you're getting along with whatever you back it. So on a couple different levels, for if you're backing the book, you're getting more bang for your buck. And then also you might find a new favorite creator, a new favorite series. And I get to introduce you to my friends and the people that are inspiring me.
So, going off that, who are the people inspiring you these days? Besides the people you've already kind of talked about.
Right. Mark Russell. He did Traveling to Mars.
Yes.
Which blew me away. It still has.
I don't think you found any vampires there.
No, and it's been long enough that I can't remember if I got it because it was Mars and we were getting close to launching this. But I mean, I'd also read some of Mark's other stuff, and he's a
great guy.
He's got a wonderful ability to like break your heart and make you laugh, and it can happen on the next panel. And that writing wise, that for me is the up close magic. I mentioned Jason Aaron, Scotty Young's Middle West. Terry Moore. Strangers in Paradise, and so many other books. Those are the guys that I look to. That again, that ability to make you laugh on one page and break your heart on the next. That's beautiful. So yeah, Traveling to Mars, and I hope this comes out right. I'm not a huge fan of comics that have a ton of words, and I know that's weird coming from a writer. Mark thread the needle. Like there are a lot of words. All of them are important. All of them matter. And I think that's the needle he thread is it's, being able to make every panel, every bubble, every frame count and mean something.
And so it's very layered. There's, he's able to mix the funny with saying something worth, that needs to be said.
Yes. And every issue bringing something to the table. That still blows me away. I on day one backed the hardcover Kickstarter he did for it, so I'm anxiously waiting for that to arrive so I can reread it. And then,
if you haven't heard, you should check out. He has a new collection. He took because we just spoke with him about a week ago. It's called Grim and Grimmer. He's putting his spin on the grim fairy tales, kind of like he did with God's Disappointed in You.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, I will check out anything he does. I mean, so right now he's also doing X Factor over at Marvel with Bob Quinn, and I love Bob, and I'm friends with Bob, and so to see that he got an X book with Mark Russell, one of the guys I'm mainlining right now, I was thrilled for them. I was thrilled for me as a reader, and that has been one of my favorite X books from the relaunch because again, it's doing that thing. You could bill it as a comedy, but if you're paying attention, it is smart satire. Like it is saying something, and I think that's the beauty of comics. right? Like you can take the X-Men and you can turn it into a satire, a deep, thoughtful satire. Yeah, and then Jason Aaron, like I said, he is just somebody. Whatever he writes, I'm gonna pick up and buy. Same thing with Tom King. I got to mention Stephanie Phillips just because I got a chance to catch up on her Phoenix run, and she's doing a book with Brian Azzarello called Life for Distillery. So I spent this weekend essentially mainlining Stephanie's current books, and blew me away. So yeah, so that's the stuff that I'm very excited about right now. And then, like I said, I'm just reading and trying to see how they did the magic trick, so I can bring it into these books that I'm working on.
So, as in your years of uh, comic creating, and I know you mentioned you went to the panel of how not to launch a comic.
Uh,
What's the best advice that you've gotten from somebody in the industry? Um, and do you remember who it was?
oh man, just because it came up recently, and it was probably made an impression because it was early in my writing career. Matt Fraction, I remember him in an interview basically saying, I never tell the artist to redraw something because they've worked on it 10 times longer than I have, and I will just make it work. So that was kind of his vibe. And who knows if that, I mean, his Hawkeye run was such an important milestone for me to like, oh, this is what I like in comics. To start figuring out what my adult tastes and my creator tastes are. And so I figured, all right, if that rule works for Fraction, then who the hell am I to like do anything else? But then it helped inform a bigger lesson, and I think every good comic creator says this, so I can't attribute it to one person. But like, trust your collaborators. My system at this point is to paint a target. So like with Fernando, it's like, hey, here's what this 20-page issue is. Here's the beats. Here's the important stuff I need to happen. So paint the target. However you get there, go for it, because you're going to live with it longer than I am, and I want you to feel like you have autonomy, and that I trust you, and that you can let your storytelling ability come into it, your sensibilities, your taste. Make it as fun for you as possible, because you're going to live with it 10 times longer than I am. And that always turns out the best collaboration. Fernando will send me pages, and it's what I was hoping for plus, because he got to bring his talent and expertise. I will never understand page layout and camera dynamics and just pace as well as Fernando or any other working artist. I just won't. Same thing with Ellie and colors. Like, I'll never understand the color wheel as well as her. So rather than tell her it needs to be red, tell her like, look, I'm going for something like X, and let her find it. And that it always turns out better. Everything gets elevated the more trust you give to other people. And I think that might be maybe a little counter. And I think that may kind of come out of fear. Like, if I don't tell them everything, it's not going to be perfect. But it becomes perfect when everybody gets to play. And then you get something bigger and better. And that's what I love about the medium. All I want to do with my life is work with other creative people and make things. And so that's that. I think that's why I've fallen so much in love with this medium and working in it. Is like, again, the only way it succeeds is if everybody gets a chance to play and bring their expertise.
I agree. So, is there anything else about the Kickstarter for the campaign this time that you wanted to make sure that people knew about, or maybe we didn't get to cover?
If you're new, if this is the first time you're hearing about it and it sounds interesting, I tried to make it as simple as possible for new people to jump on board with a bunch of different options. From the most basic digital option to a way to catch up, instantly and financially responsible. That's it. The interesting thing about launching the third issue of a series is the reward tiers and options keep getting bigger and bigger. I did my best to make this as clean as possible. And again, just make it easy for anybody to jump on, whether they've been with it from the beginning or they're coming on board right now. And I mean, I love doing pins for these books, and Alex Cormack, he is the gift that keeps on giving. He did an amazing variant cover for our first issue, and so we're bringing the art back, and our pin for this issue is the pin version of his cover, which is just absolutely iconic. It's our main character Hanna in kind of a NASA suit, but it just absolutely covered in blood with the American flag behind her. So a fun riff on those classic NASA graduation photos. So yeah, I'm excited for that pin to be in existence as well. I think it's going to look and feel real good when we make them.
So, as we kind of wrap up here, if you want to give like a final pitch for the book and where people can find you, and on those evil social networks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Vampires on Mars. Numbers 1 through 3. It's a sci-fi horror dark comedy about the price of your humanity when you try to succeed and the repercussions thereof. And to make it fun, we shot a bunch of vampires into space in a confined vehicle to see what would happen next. And again, this team of Fernando, Ellie, Justin, and I got to shout out our editor, James Emmett, just took what could have been a simple throwaway B-movie story and really elevated it to it's funny when it needs to be funny. It is dark when it needs to be dark. It's exciting when it needs to be exciting. And they are all magicians who made this thing just read so smoothly. Hope you check it out. On the socials, I spend most of my days on Blue Sky, and you can find me at George W. O'Connor because there are a ton of George O'Connors in comics. So look for the W. And then if you'd like to learn more about me and the things that I've made, homelesscomics.com is where you can check out my back catalog, download free previews of all the stuff, and order it directly from me. Right behind me is the unfinished part of my basement, and that's where all these comics live. And they're looking for good homes and nightstands to go to.
Yeah, I think when we talked last time, you were trying to move some both comics and musical stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I basically, where we are right now is the studio. So the stuff gets made where we are right now. It all gets stored behind me. So yeah, but behind me are boxes full of comics, amps, guitars. So yeah. Yeah, this basement is basically a shrine and a playground for 8-year-old George, who always just wants to keep making things and then show them off.
And are you planning on doing any shows this year?
Yes, it is. The plan is starting to come together. Fan Expo Boston is our big show, our hometown show. And that's going to be August 8th, 9th, and 10th. I just got booked for the Independent Comic Creator Convention, which is down in Connecticut on March 15th. This is their second year. and it's a great 1-day show where you're not going to be overwhelmed, and you can you can take your time. You can find something you dig. You can find creators that you dig, and it's in a much calmer, comics focused venue. So I'm very excited to be a part of it this year. And then unfortunately I am traveling, so I can't be a part of it, but I want everybody to know about Wicked Comic Con in Boston. It's a 1-day show run by the original Boston Comic Con people, and they are building something very special and very cool. It is a comic. It's a big comic book show where the comic creators are the stars, and I think it's a well welcomed addition to the big pop culture shows to have a big show that is comics creator focused, and that's what we're celebrating. So yeah, off the top, that's that. And then also homelesscomics.com is where I update my itinerary as it comes together as well.
Cool. Well, I want to wish you best of luck as the campaign, reaches its final week, and we'll definitely have to get back and chat in not over almost a year. So
I would love that, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the things coming down the pike. There's the creator that's always like, this is it. This is the last thing I'm going to do. Let me pack it up. And then Fernando will send me layouts, or this other project I'm getting pages on. And it's like, oh, but I love this stuff. I love this stuff so much. And, people like raising the signal is amazing. And a platform like Kickstarter, giving any creator a chance to reach worldwide is amazing. The tools are there. Like I said, I'm still an 8-year-old kid who has remained curious and likes making things and showing them off. So despite what that dumb part of my brain might say, there's too much good out there to not make the thing.
All right. Well, like I said, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure chatting to you, and let's stay in touch. And so whenever you have your next project out, we can get back and do this again.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chad. Appreciate it.
And we'll continue to follow Vampires on Mars over on Comic Watch in our weekly comic or crowdfunder roundup.
Oh, you're doing the Lord's work. Thank you.
It takes forever, though.
This is it's a long road. That's why anybody doing this it's out of love, because the stuff isn't easy. It's not easy financially. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But we do it because we love it and we're passionate about it, whether we're making it, whether we're talking about it, whether we're supporting it. So it's huge. It's huge.
All righty. Well, I will let you get along with your day, and we'll stay in touch.
Sounds great, man. Thank you.